One year, it tries a new voice. It says, "There is shadow under this red rock. Come in under the shadow of this red rock, and I will show you something different from either your shadow at morning striding behind you, or your shadow at evening rising to meet you. I will show you fear in a handful of dust." He hears it quite distinctly. He doesn't know what it means, though the wall is like a red rock, and there is a cool shadow beneath it where he chooses to sit, and everywhere here is dust. He thinks he knows the voice too. It sounds like a warrior he once knew, whose armor bore no markings. His own armor had no markings either, because the wind and sand have worn them off. Perhaps the warrior was lost in the desert too. He can't remember the warrior's name. It was too long ago. And besides, he's fairly sure it is just the red doing different voices. Still, the little bleached memory of the warrior reminds him of a little faded patch of the past he thought he had lost in the dust. He starts scraping a new plan out on the wall. "I am Rogel Dorn, unyielding," he says. "Just give up. Just say it. Just say it. Who is the blood for?" The whispers are distracting. After a few more years, he decides to talk while he works, to blot them out. The red doesn't like that either. 2 millennia before the start of the first modern era on Terra, it was written in the Samari epic lyric, called by some the Record of Gilgamesh, that 2 warriors debated whether or not to execute a captured enemy. Behind the wall, the red hisses in annoyance. This again. They eventually elect to kill him. This brings down on them the opprobrium of what, at that period, were considered gods. There were no gods, but in this case, gods are a metaphor for societal outrage. The poem, some 30,000 years old, is the earliest human record of ethics in warfare. The idea of just and unjust killing. It is the first application of morality to warfare. The red growls its displeasure. He smiles and adds, "Mankind realized, even then, that blood was never just for blood." Another growl. He carries on working, scratching, planning. He's not really talking to the red, because you cannot really hold a conversation with it. Not any conversation he's prepared to have. But there is no one else here besides him and the red. He talks to drown out its whispers, so he can concentrate. It is simply a bonus that what he says annoys it. Some, and we can only estimate, but some 1,500 years later, the cultures of 𝗟𝗾𝗂𝗃𝗃 developed the first rules of war. They were not binding and had no legality, but they were agreed and abided by at a societal level. These are the things he remembers. He learned them long ago. Someone taught him when he was young. His father, perhaps? He thinks he had a father. He recites the history of warfare ethics as a mantra, a focus for his rusting mind, a wall to block out the whispers, a calculated annoyance. He keeps talking to himself. It's odd at first, for no one has really spoken for almost a century except the whispers. The sound of his own voice surprises him. He had almost forgotten how to speak. Give up, give in, say it. Say who the blood is for. Circa 300 M1, in the period known as the Marshall States in the Eastern Eurasian Expanse. Concept of Yi-Bang was devised to regulate the application of war. This formalized the justification for killing, making it the supreme method of judicial punishment. It could be used only by the ruling elite. Just kings, lords, emperors. Blood was not for anyone else. Behind the wall, the red snarls. This is the convention later known as jus ad bellum. Years pass. Plans are scratched, scrapped, and new versions added. Frustrated by his dry-voiced lectures and the scritch of his blade, the red stops whispering. Sounds come instead. Noises on the other side of the wall. Distant murmurs of battle and destruction. He stops and listens. He presses his ear to the wall to hear better. The sounds are close. Just on the other side. They are so tempting. But he can't climb the walls because the walls are slightly too high, and he knows that if he treks up to the top of the highest dune, he still won't quite be able to see over. He wants to. He wants to see. He longs to let go, to give up, to wade out into the blood and stop thinking. But the only way to get out, the only way to reach the other side, is to give in and say the thing the red wants him to say. I am Rogel Dorn, he says instead.